The next tragedy has befallen the shores of the United States in the form of another mass shooting in Maine. What we see is 22 people have been killed and 61 injured as of the current reporting. We see that they have not been able to find the person who has actually committed these actions, although we do know the identity of the person. The thing that I cannot get over is the fact that this will be used by politicians to morally grandstand atop the bodies of dead people, where they will act as if they are such noble and honorable individuals as they sit there and use the people who have died through travesty as stepping stones to advance their political career. Meanwhile, never knowing the names of the people who have passed, only using the ideals of their death to push the metrics of what they see their success being. Let's go ahead, jump into this. I can't stand the nature of political rhetoric that gets pushed around the topic of school shootings and mass shootings in general because it's so fucking tragic. Because once again, we see politicians avoiding the thing that matters, which is the value of human life, because they always end up sidestepping it to push their own agenda to make sure they can push their own career forward. Let's go ahead and jump into what's going on with this shooting. From Mario Nafal on Twitter, shooting update, FBI ready to assist in Maine mass shooting. Manhunt for the shooter is ongoing. Biden has been briefed. FBI's Boston office says it is ready to assist in the shooting investigation. The FBI Boston division continues to coordinate with our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners in Maine. We stand ready to assist with any available resources they need, including evidence response, investigative and tactical support, as well as victim assistance. So the FBI coming in and making their commentary, and the one thing that I want to touch on is the nature of how many shootings that have happened in the past where the FBI comes in after the chaos has subsided, they goose step their way into the frame, and what do they say? Well, they were on our radar. And I wonder if this is going to be the case here, because as we can see, this is probably not the first time this has happened, considering I believe this person was let out of a mental health institution over summer and they were put in a 2-week stint. Nonetheless, moving on, we're going to go ahead and jump into here, and we see the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history. So why is it that we have so many of these shootings? I would argue it's the mental health crisis, and many of the times where these shootings happens are in gun-free zones. And here's the big deal with that. Gun-free zones are places where government is supposed to protect you, and if this isn't proof that no one is coming to save you, I don't know what will. And it's genuinely tragic because it's just more people lost to the chaos that is gun violence, and I'm not someone who's ever going to advocate through gun violence that we need to restrict the Second Amendment. What I will advocate for is better addressing the mental health problems that are befalling the people of the United States. And how would we do that? Well, you could go ahead and bring back things like, I don't know, mental health institutions possibly. You could stop propagandizing people in mass when it comes to television, pushing pharmaceutical ads, which the United States, being one of the only countries that allows this to happen. People are drugged up to a degree in the US that is unbelievable. And with it, the amount of pharmaceutical medication we have, I would say, has driven us insane to the point of having so many shootings. Let's go ahead and jump in. Deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history. The Las Vegas shooting in 2017, 60 dead, 867 injured. Go ahead and look up the history of the Stephen Paddock ordeal and all of what happened with the Las Vegas shooting and how so much of that just doesn't correlate and make sense. Orlando nightclub shooting 2016, 49 dead, 58 injured. Virginia Tech shooting 2007, 32 dead, 23 injured. Sandy Hook Elementary School 2012, 27 dead, 2 injured. Sutherland Springs Church 2017, 26 dead and 22 injured. And as I've stated, these are all places that are government-mandated gun-free zones, and with it, we see that it's just an easy place for innocent people to be targeted. What we have to do is set the precedent in society that if you're someone who's willing to act homicidally, then you are going to be committing an act of suicide as well, because there will be someone armed that is going to be able to put you down for the act of committing violence against an innocent person. Now, we go ahead and move on again to Twitter, and here we see Ed Krasenstein. I disagree with Ed on basically everything, and he usually tries to moralize over a lot of different situations, but I do believe that he really cares about the nature of people dying from gun violence. I believe it bugs him. He's a father. Okay, Kat, you're going to have to go. He says, I'm sick and tired. Robert Card, the shooter in Maine, reportedly with mental health issues, including hearing voices. He also reportedly threatened to shoot up the National Guard base. Stop it with the Second Amendment argument. It doesn't prohibit us from talking or taking steps to stop this. Why can't we just have universal background checks? Why can't we require background checks on all sales of guns, including all sold at gun shows? Why can't we regulate AR-15s and similar guns like we do machine guns and sawed-off shotguns? Why can't we fix our mental health issues in this country? Why? So I believe he's genuinely asking these questions, but I also believe he's moralizing over dead people, which is very much something that people love to do in politics, and it really pisses me off because it shows many of the times you do not care about human life. Although I would argue I do believe the Krasensteins do. I don't think the Krasenstein brothers are these heartless, soulless individuals. I believe they say what they feel in their heart and they're honest. I also just think that they're hopelessly blue pilled. And what we need to talk about is right here to stop it with the Second Amendment argument. Well, there is no argument. And as we can see, as the proliferation of constitutional carry has continued to grow, there is no more argument. There is no stopping this. People who are on the right and people who believe in the Second Amendment are not having the debate with you anymore. You can't use the moralization of dead people dying from gun violence to say, well, look, we need to be able to restrict you, the person who isn't willing to go commit violence on innocent people, and we need to restrict your ability to defend yourself. No, no one's having that argument anymore. We're not having that debate because the conversation is dead. Because every single time we see people being massacred in many of these different instances, like I've said, it's always in gun-free zones. So here we see from Scott Adams, clearly he's a shapeshifter. He can make his entire face look like a different person, or the real perp killed the weapons instructor first and took his car and the weapons to do the rest. I don't actually know what Scott's going on about. He could be speculating about the fact that this could just be a psyop that's being pushed. I don't actually know if that's the case, although I would not be surprised if the government was once again pushing a psyop to try and steal people's rights away, because the one way they love to do this is use a moral standard so that they can always bully you into a state of fear, and then with that they can propagandize you to the nth degree, which will allow you to be someone who is willing to, let's say, acquiesce some of your rights, because in the heart of most people, while I wish most people desire to be free, most people simply wish to be safe, and freedom is just an afterthought. Let's go ahead and jump into this post from or this article from the New York Post covering the nature of what's going on with live updates. From the New York Post, we have a live shooting thread update, and here we see Maine mass shooting suspect has crossed the border into Massachusetts, say police scanners. A gunman killed at least 22 people in separate shootings across Lewiston, Maine Wednesday night, according to law enforcement sources and reports. The person of interest behind the deadly mass shooting in Maine is reportedly a trained firearms instructor believed to be in the Army Reserve. Robert Card, 40, was stationed out of Saco, Maine, reportedly hearing voices and threatened to shoot up a National Guard base where he was stationed. Card, originally of Bowdoin, Maine, should be considered armed and dangerous and was reportedly committed to a mental health facility over the summer and was released after a 2-week stay, the sources added. And this is a perfect example of why we need to bring back the mental health asylums. Lewiston shooting is the deadliest mass shooting of 2023. It's time to go through the live feed thread. As of 3 hours ago, that is when this was posted, saying that before this, the deadliest shooting in the United States of 2023 was one in California that had killed 11 people in Monterey Park. Right now, this stands as the 565th mass shooting in the United States this year. A perfect example of why we have to bring back the mental health asylums. Here we see shooting suspect may have crossed into Massachusetts, say police scanners. Stephen King addresses the mass shootings in his home state. Stephen King being someone who is an avid, progressive, democratic socialist type. He is constantly anti-gun, but he will actively vote for politicians who are protected by the things that he wants to ban you from being able to have to protect yourself and your family. He's perfectly okay with the politicians, the political class, and the elite class having security guards that have guns to defend them, but he's not okay with you, the civilian class, having guns to defend yourself. Now, what we see he has to say is the shootings occurred less than 50 miles from my home where I live. I went to high school in Libsyn. It's the rapid-fire killing machines, people. This is madness in the name of freedom. Stop electing murder apologists. And what we see is that the ATF has announced that they will be rolling into the fray, which means the ATF and the FBI and all of the other task force surrounding this will be focused on this because, let's be honest, this is going to be the manhunt of the current week. And I cannot wait to see the nature of how this rhetoric escalates, because I'm curious if they're going to switch it up or if they're going to stick with the same mantra that they've consistently pushed when it comes to the past shootings of the past, let's say, decade. Here we see mayor orders residents to stay in home, keep your doors locked. And this was actually put out last night. There was a stay-in-home order that was put out. And what do we see? Survivor hid in bowling alley machinery when gunman opened fire. That is so fucking unbelievable that this person was like, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into the siding of this bowling equipment. And so I actually have a friend who is working at a local bowling alley that was relatively close to this, roughly 20 to 30 minutes away. And because of that, me and my friends that were talking at the time were very concerned with the fact that we could not get in contact with him. And due to the fact is that we saw so many people die because of this heinous travesty, because this psychotic piece of shit was willing to go and kill innocent people. Well, I know the nature of what it means to feel despair in your heart because you are concerned for someone that you cannot contact in a moment of crisis. because what I felt in my heart was hard to convey in words, because if my friend would have died, I would have been genuinely heartbroken, because he's someone I genuinely care about. He's a fantastic person. And the thing is, I can only imagine how people who have their family members, their children, in these situations would feel. And what we see is Maine politicians are expressing worry, horror, and following the mass shooting. And the one thing that really, really bugs me about this, and the reason that I brought this up, of the feeling that people would have in their heart when they're talking about the possibility of their children being in danger and they can't contact them. Maine bowling alley tragedy by mass shooter was hosting a youth league. I really hope there are no children that died in this travesty. It's genuinely fucking heartbreaking if that's the case. Prayers for the 22 people that are already dead, and I hope that they're able to catch this psychotic bastard before he takes any more lives. I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down just for a second. That says municipal buildings, Bates College closed Thursday following mass shooting, and everyone that I know that lives in Maine right now is not even going to work because they're still under the stay-at-home order. And here we see right here, we have shootings from what was going, or footage from what was going on at the shooting. People hugging their loved ones in absolute shock. Guards walking around with firearms. And to be honest, I just can't believe that this is once again something that's going to be thrown into the fray, because we're going to see people moralize over dead people once more and try and push their political standards than talking about the fact of what we could do to actually save people's lives to make sure that they're not thrown into this chaos once more. Thank you for watching if you got this far. Prayers for the families and the people who are no longer with us. Stay lovely, stay great. Thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments section down below. I know the Second Amendment and gun violence is a very contentious issue, so I'm perfectly open for any criticism as long as it's open and honest criticism. Thank you for watching. Stay lovely, stay great. Peace out.